WXBJ HD1 Hackettstown, 90.5 WKHS Wharton, and streaming at xpn.org. Member-supported radio from the University of Pennsylvania.
Welcome to Amazon Country, radio from lesbian and feminist perspective.
Here comes the lesbian, here comes the sleeping lesbian. We're gonna please you, keep passing, please you. We're gonna get you if we can. Here comes the lesbian. Don't go and try to fight it, run away or try to hide it. We want your love and sex, so then here comes the lesbian.
Welcome to Amazon Country Radio from lesbian and feminist perspectives. I'm your Amazon Country host and producer, Deborah D'Alessandro. Thanks so much for spending part of your Sunday night with me here at XPN. We're going to start out with Alex Dobkin. I was just telling a friend about this song, and I'm going to let Alex tell you the story. Alex Dobkin, if you don't know who she is, was a groundbreaking lesbian singer-songwriter who performed worldwide, made it to mid-80s. I think we lost her at about age 84, and look her up, Alex, A-L-I-X, Dobkin, D-O-B-K-I-N. Such a great body of work behind it. And here is her song, Lesbian Code.
Now we come to my very favorite song in the world. And I'll tell you why I love this song. Not only is it fun to sing, but this song demonstrates so clearly that we have an international lesbian culture. You remember the last time I was in town, I was collecting code words. Remember that? And I was asking you what kind of words you use as code with each other when you're out on the street, you see a likely looking woman, you have some word, some term that you use to check it out, right? So I went all over the place collecting these words, England, Scotland, Ireland, here in Aotearoa, and in the United States, and finally put them all into a song together. Strangely enough, it's called Lesbian Code. She's a BD, baby duck. She's a PD, possible, probable. She's a DD, yeah, she's a definite dyke. She's a POU, positively one of us. She's got high LP, good potential. Suffering from PLT, pre-lesbian tension. It's a terrible thing to watch. She's a wannabe, a DOT. Well, if she can't be a dyke today, she can be a dyke tomorrow. And she'll be a DIT, a dyke in training, or an FBA. Future dyke of America, she'll be a Betty, a friend of Dorothy. She'll be a time that's okay. Lesbian code. Is she Lithuanian? I know. Is she Lebanese? Well, she's gifted. She's Latvian, Latonic, and I happen to know she's a vegetarian. She's a member of the team. Of the family, she's a member of the church, of the club, of the committee, and she sings in the choir. Is she a lima bean from Kentucky? Or is she a green new bean? Or is she refried? Is she a canned bean in the closet? Or is she now with the man? But she's a has-been. No, she's a lesbian in the snow. Lansing 4891. She lives in Dyke Heights. She's an Arkansas, her dyke, Motor City dyke. Get close to the pagoda with the Chinese. You bet she hollers outside in Charlotte. We believe in lesbian code. Okie dokie. Check it out. What do you reckon? She's a likely one, Spotto. Gotta be. She looks a bit sus. She must be of the faith. I'll put her on Layboy. She's ECN from New Zealand. She's compass from out there to a Kiwi cruise. You can spot the boat to run. The camp girl, she's on the bike. Camp is a row of tents, but she's a houser mother. Over in Dublin, she's a whatever you have. And in Belfast and Cork, she's a square girl, a lash, got a glad eye, got a kick in her. She drinks sugar every water. Oh, he said lesbian code. She's the Church of England. She's ginger. She's got Dutch boy fingers. She's an M.O.T., a member of the tribe. She's a gold star, got her ID card, and she shops at Frisco. A sister of the inclination. She's elite in Scotland, that she's all right. That's 100 points. Is she a carpenter from Bristol? Is she a bus driver from Nottingham? Is she a merchandise? Is she a fancy night? Does she live in the Dikeria? Then she's a Frisbean. In Lansing 48912, she lives in Dyke. Sort of like 2040. Dyke card. She's an explorer, like Motor City Dyke. It goes to the proposal with the Chinese, you bet. She climbs out of the line in Charlotte. We said this is fun. We said this is fun. She's a Lendo. She's a big one. She's a bowler. She wears sensible shoes. This is for DL and DR. That's right to the right. He got those from Israel. She's like that. Here's the non-verbal. Non-verbal. Someone's half of the joke, a lie, declaration of fib. Now you all believe I am his friend. She rang at the top of her lungs. Queen Victoria gave her daughter some advice. Her daughter she can tremble on her wedding night. Queen Victoria, she said to her daughter, baby, lie still and think of the empire under her husband. Though kind and wrong, she never thought to wonder when she never smiled. The little Red Riding Hood was walking down the trail. She was carrying the boobs, the little sail, because she ate them all up. Then that was that. Then she didn't come out. Fear gets that. Because even Red Riding Hood reads Angus, and even when she's trying to die more. Now we got Cinderella. She's showing up home. Quite concerned with being alone. She's playing with the mice and singing with the birds. And they're the only ones who ever heard these words. She said, on the end of the mountain. They were not right. And she couldn't smoke like they got him in like what there's one thing. That was just my night that I could get the fairy god on that. She screams at the top of her lungs, I'm cold, body and heart, I'm fine, I'm slow. She screams at the top of her lungs, I'm cold, body and heart, I'm fine, I'm slow. Now we got
her sore. She cleans and she cooks and she's taking care of her. And one day I said, Snow White, go back to the bed and put no on Anna. I feel like the whole, you know, it's hard for us women to try to live ourselves. We spend their whole day lives taking care of little Elvis. Now, Helen of Troy became on 2006 with a short of a skirt with shape of lips. And when that old Barbie, the blame in her face for the rape domination wrong time, wrong place. Helen simply slips between her lines, goes bloody. Now we got to the puzzle. She's chilling in her bed. Waiting for the handsome bitch to start to fall apart. Finally one day, the handsome bitch down and shouted to Rapunzel, your girl, what is that? But argue Rapunzel wasn't the word he couldn't hear. That would be Rapunzel had done something. All the time alone, kind of dummy and a ghost, but shaking her head and I know we are low. She screamed to the top of the lungs, back in the heart of my soul. She screamed to the top of the lungs, back in the heart of my soul. She screamed to the top of the lungs, back in the heart of my soul. She screamed to the top of the lungs, I'm calling it fire. The heart of my soul. She screamed to the top of the lungs, yeah. She screamed to the top of the lungs. She screamed to the top of the lungs, yeah. She screamed to the top of the lungs. She screamed to the top of the lungs, yeah. She screamed to the top of the lungs. She screamed to the top of the lungs, yeah. Dorothy had Eve at a fork in the yellow brick road. She said, I'm going to see the wizard in the tree. Eve said, I've met him, and whatever you do, just go down.
Seems to keep blinding me with their damn flashlight.
Dorothy asked Eve, should I go left here or go right? Eve said, listen to my story before you take my advice. I was thrown out for an over-curious fight. They say I have a dangerous appetite. But what I learned from the apples I ate is there might be something. There are no mistakes. Always the same, easy thing to believe. So question what you find behind the curtain, Dorothy. Dorothy said, I'm just looking for a happy ending. He said Hollywood was always good at pretending. And when the movie is over and Dorothy will disappear, Judy Garland will be left with all her fears. For Judy, a happy ending. They were little brick dolls. She ate the wrong thing. She got thrown out. End of the rainbow, but nowhere to hide. Judy looked behind the curtain. She did not survive. Dorothy walked back forth. Yellow brick road. Fire in the wind, measure
As Chris Williams said, I hope you enjoyed that Free Association Theater of My Mind. So we went starring Dorothy from Chris Williams. Before that, Dorothy and Eve from Cozy Sheridan. Alex Olson, who was Eve's mouth. Alex Dobkin started us out with The Lesbian Code. I'm Deborah D'Alessandro. Take it to 11:30 here with Amazon Country. Let's get back to the music. So we ended with Surrender Dorothy, and now we go to Sarah McLachlan. Sweet Surrender. Doesn't mean much. Doesn't mean anything. The lies I've left behind me, so cool. Across the night. Where I can turn. Wherever step I took and face the truth. And I
Doesn't mean anything at all. The life I've left behind me is a queen.
That is the trio that went by the name Two Nice Girls, Sweet Postcard, and before that, Sweet Surrender from Sarah McLachlan. I am Deborah D'Alessandro, host and producer of Amazon Country, reminding you, as I do every week, that lesbians and our allies, we are everywhere. We're going to go out with Sweet Honey in the Rock, beautiful rendition of Farron's song, Testimony. Have yourself a great week.
There's our life and war life and strong life only some show, and there are sad life and mad life and happy life we know, but by my life he has spirit, and by my heart be I woman, and by my eyes be I open, and by my hand be I hold. But no matter how slow that I walk, there are traces, empty spaces, and doors of locked. But by my life, the I spirit, and by my heart, the I woman, and by my eyes the eye open, and by my hand the eye hold. You young ones, you're the next ones, and I hope you choose it well. Though you try hard, you may fall prey to the jaded jewel, but by your life be you spirit, and by your heart be you women, and by your eye be you open, and by your hands be you hold. There are waters hidden from us. In the maze we find them still. We'll take you to them. You take your young ones. May they take their own in turn, and by our lives be we spirit, and by our heart be we women, and by our eyes be we open, and by our hands
It's After Dark here at WXBN. Born in Brooklyn, Jerry Torre's life took a dramatic turn when he stepped foot into East Hampton, Long Island in the early 1970s. While working as a gardener/handyman at the J. Paul Getty estate, he was intrigued by a mysterious, dilapidated mansion next door. One day he set out to explore that abandoned house, which wasn't abandoned at all, and that began an incredible story. It's one that's full and directed with Margot Fawn, Greg Hardy, a memoir of the Beals, Davis Brothers, and Jacqueline Kennedy, co-authored by Jerry Torre and Tony Netta. It's now available on Quail Press. Joining me here at XPN to share this story in first person is Jerry Torre. Welcome to Philly at XPN.
Thank you so much.
It's good to have you here. This is quite a tale that many people might know through Great Gardens, but it's always good to get the story from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Not calling you a horse by any means.
Oh,
I'll call you anything you want, all right? So you were born in Brooklyn. How did you wind up in East Hampton? How did that all begin?
My introduction to Long Island was where my uncle had a small farm, potato, and he was also a great mason. He was building a farm, outdoor farmhouse for the family, summer retreat. And I went there often to, escape my father for the environment alone and other abuses. And so I fled, I ran away. And I went to my Uncle Freddie's to live. And then, I was living there, but I had to finish high school. And I would hitchhike to the school. I was picked up by a police officer, and he was very gentle with me and polite. And he said to me, "You can't hitchhike so and so." I said, "I'm finishing school," and I did. I managed to finish high school there. But he and I became friends. He said, "Well, what are you going to do when you finish graduating?" I said, "Well, no big deal. I don't know what to do." He said, you're a gardener, you have a green thumb. I do, I think. And he said, why don't you come out to Amagansett and have a small fishing village, cottage? And I did. And then there, a few days after I arrived, he said, you need to work. I said, excellent idea. I like that. Of course, I didn't sit around looking at Bay, Gardener's Bay. And he brought over a newspaper article, and I read it. It was this person, not mentioned the name, was looking for an assistant gardener, Mr. Gerald Geddes. And I went there with him, and he let me walk into the driveway, and I met the housekeeper, Charlotte. She hired me very quickly, $100 a week, room and board. It was paradise. There was a swimming pool they never used.
How old was this time?
16.
Did you know anything about the Geddes at that point?
No, I didn't. I didn't know anything about
You
it.
just saw a nice house and you figured, okay, there's money, but you had no idea what
Oh.
family.
Oh, I did not. Oh, I did meet Mr. Geddes a few times, two unfortunate times. He was a power crazy person.
It's obvious now.
Well, you know what he said to me? Say, when you're working, I don't want to see you on my property. And I chuckled and thought, how is I'm going to tell him to do that?
Right.
How do I
Work
put...
and be invisible.
And now cutting the lawn like a half-acre lawn. And he did find me working, and he did fire me. And I was very emotional over that. I got my job back through Charlotte. And then, of course, I learned that I keep out of his sight on the lawn. You know, there was this power of crazy person.
And you're working at the Getty Mansion. You're doing gardening, some maintenance work and things like that. Now, the house next door starts to catch your eye.
Well, actually, it was about a quarter mile down towards the ocean. It's called Georgica Pond area. And I rode my bicycle after the afternoon after picking up some sticks on the lawn, so my chores were light. And I rode down this one road I had not ridden yet, down that road. It was a beautiful summer day, and I'd make a right at the end of it, make a left, and the hedges are 3 stories tall. I didn't understand how they could grow that tall, because everything amazing and manicured. One has stayed more beautiful than the next. Ponds on the lawn, ducks, ocean, front property,
A-list property.
Amen. It was beautiful. Anyway, I finished, I right left to the hedges, and I see the peak of the house, one peak. And I stumbled actually off my bike. I stopped paying attention because I was just overwhelmed with interest. I said, what is this house? A mansion, no less. I found out it was finally to get a good look at it when I was near it. And it was the mansion. And I said, oh boy, it must be abandoned. So interesting. There was a car in the driveway. Later on, I found out that car was there for like 40 years. The door was open to the driver's side. Of course, I didn't trust it then, but I did the next day. And I went home after I saw the mansion. I just was so restless. That evening, I went back. It was nice. The moon was out. It was great. And there was a light on the second floor and on the front porch. It's a bulb. And I said, wow, someone lives here. So I went back to my residence where I was. Then the following day, I went up to the mansion. Right quickly, I finished my chores, and I went right up to the car. There was a keys ignition. I said to myself, Jerry, you're this close to the front porch.
Right.
Go to the porch. They're going to get arrested, but don't. But I didn't.
Drag the rain.
No, I didn't get arrested. I walked onto the floor, street, everything was dilapidated, and I cleared the diamond-shaped front windows, windows the size of the great front door. I cleaned it, I looked through it, and there in the vestibule, there were cobwebs straight from everywhere they attached themselves down the corridor, to the left, onto chandeliers, onto candlesticks.
So did you rethink the fact that maybe somebody doesn't live there? But once you saw that, you must have thought, okay.
Well, that's a big question. You know what I did find, and I understood why I thought someone was living there? The woman, Edie, who I did not yet meet, she traveled down the stairs, main stairs, but she wore a path through those cobwebs. It was literally a tunnel. It was this person who did walk, collect groceries. I didn't know her name at the time, poor Edie, and open the door, get the groceries, go back. It's obvious somebody was walking in a path. Because everything around that path, oh yeah, and it was cans, cupboards, and cats alive. So I said, so listen, I'm gonna do it. Dear Edie comes down the stairs quickly. She must have seen me on the property. And I see her white shoes crossing under the banister down the stairs. Opens the window, unlatches the screen door, and said, Mother, the marble fawn is here. And I was disbelieved that she was so elegant and precious. And I just wanted to be helpful. I don't know who that is, but if you need any help here, I'll be willing to help you with the property, cleaning, or whatever you need, gardening. I said, you need to come back in the morning and speak to Mother. And then she asked me some questions where I lived in the house, where I lived in the area. I said, I lived in the spaghetti. Who she actually dated, I found out sometime later that she didn't, well, it didn't hit her, it didn't work out, but she did date him. And Mrs. Beale mentioned it in the film. So, anyway, I went back the next morning, very much so on time. Edie said 9, I didn't think she was time. And I went in, and Edie opened, and then I escorted me, after locking the door, upstairs to the vestibule and staircase. Walking in Mrs. Beale's reclining on HA brown habit, and cats are looking around, and I see raccoon tails hanging from the ceiling. And cats you could hear in the background, all kinds of excited and scared.
Were you still intrigued, or were you curious, like, what am I doing myself?
No, I said to myself, how on earth is this elegant, soft-spoken woman who's definitely educated, I was not in the same league, how did you wind up living, know that this room, but every part of the mansion upside down? So I said, how did it happen? I remained fascinated. I know a lot about why it happened, and things are private, and I will never reveal them. I was in confidence told many things. I was there about 40 minutes. We were going up to the front back porch. Mrs. Beale reclined again in another little chair, the tan one. And so I was left. I went downstairs, and then all of a sudden Edie appeared behind me, and that was, Edie had a life about her, and she was very exuberant in many things. She was also very sensitive and high-strung. She had a temper like somebody else. She was not at all unaware. Edie was always on, always. And then I found her name. We had a little chat.
Do you think that she had similar traits to her mother? Her mother just didn't have them anymore. Similar in that way?
Absolutely. Edie was actually 90% carbon copy, if I may, of her mother, Mrs. Beale. They were very, very much alike.
But Mrs. Beale was older and a little more around, quieter.
Right, and much more content in the house and her life. Edie was rather anxious.
Did you ever get the feeling that Edie wouldn't mind the opportunity to get out of that house at any point, where she could
Most of the time.
She didn't want to be there, but she was there for her mother?
Oh yes, she was devoted, God bless her, to Mrs. Beale, my dear friend. And she was certainly devoted. She gave her many years to protect Mrs. Beale. Well, guess what? From everything around her, and not so much herself, but being alone out in that secluded area.
So it's almost ironic you went to the house somewhat in not realizing, in search of a friend, but it sounds like Edie was also in search of a friend.
We were all three of us kindred spirits. There was a harmony immediately. I felt very close and very fond of Mrs. Beale. The first 5 seconds, 10 seconds, Edie was and I was, Mrs. Beale, were all in need of comfort and love. We all need each other. I certainly needed their love and care. They gave it to me. You know what? The very mansion itself, the structure, reflected the very neglect to them women and the very house. It was a mirror of what was happening. The mansion was dilapidated, it was neglect. They were not dilapidated, they were stressed for their, being isolated and fairly poor, I say. They were very much like themselves. Personalities were very close.
When you made this connection and you went back to, obviously you were still working with the Getty Estate, did you ever share with Charlotte your stories with the Beals? Was she surprised that you went and met them?
She believed she was. Well, again, Miss Edie had dated her employer, right. My employee, Mr. Getty. And I said, I gotta tell you what happened to her. And I said, I went to the Van Smoking Mansion. She said, you went to the cat lady's house? And I said, yeah, I didn't like the name, but because that doesn't seem right. But I said, yeah, I was just there, and I was going to be helping them with a little bit of this and that, and so the lawn, probably so. She said, I don't think it's wise to let Mr. Geddes know that. She said, I can't believe it. You actually went to the house and were in the mansion? I said, yeah. I said, why? She goes, nobody goes there. Nobody. And he would feed the cats on the front porch and be seen by the roadside travelers. Often, disrespected. They're a little bit of a bunch of rednecks,
Well, they all wanted that place probably was an eyesore to them.
It was.
You spend millions of dollars on these mansions, and here you have this eyesore in the middle of it.
Stephen Soundon had a property across the river. A big, massive amount of property. I've never been there, but I know it was there. Revlon had a mansion bigger than this building over there. Everyone was pristine. They did, they thought, of course, who they were, and I don't blame them. They had beautiful property. They didn't have much more, in my view. But they were also, they wanted to get out of there because, well, they didn't smell, the house didn't, but they wanted to believe it did. And the cats and raccoons at night were all over the place. And that was a nuisance to, well, even the wildlife. They were, taking out birds and stuff.
Right.
That was wrong, and they were feral. It was an eyesore. I guess I was intrigued by the setting. The neighbors, well, I remember a woman, her name was Lois, and she and I went to the IGA over there. And frankly, we didn't appear too neat and clean. And I certainly was just a young worker. There were fleas Lois had, they jumped around the counter. Women and men were really, insulted, and they may have the right to be, but they were a little overboard with their comments. I felt sorry for her. They didn't address those insults to me. Right. It was really a little bit too much, all right? But those people in town, here we are.
The odd ones.
The odd ones. It was like a Peyton Place or whatever the name of the small town gossip columnist.
As time grew on, did you develop a sibling relationship with Edie?
Edie, in front of the camera, she just adored being in front of. She liked to perform, and she did reveal to the camera her uncomfortable, perhaps disdain with my presence there. Mrs. Beale and I grew quickly and fast to love each other. And I actually asked Mrs. Beale if I may address her as mother. She was all kinds of shy and wonderful. And she said, of course, little Jerry. And I went and I kissed her on the cheek, and we were very close, like real truly mother and son. Edie noticed, of course, everything, and she resented it in a very adolescent way.
Right. I'm sure she was looking at it like the spotlight stealing
Right.
element.
And distracting the filmer, Albert, from her point of theater.
Well, let's get into the Albert element, because I think that's obviously where people start to jump in. They don't know the history, but they know the story once Albert arrives. When Albert and David show up, what was your role in that? Were you still, obviously you were still actively involved in the home and you're still friends with both Edies?
Yeah. I had been at Grey Gardens, unnamed then, it was just the mansion. I was there early 71. Albert Maisel and David Maisel and Lee Fresel who I didn't know was related to Edie or her sister, Mrs. Onassis. They arrived. Lee wanted to do a film about her childhood in East Hampton as a Bouvier, you know, and have it narrated by Mrs. Beale.
Right. Were you aware of the Bouvier connection by that point?
No, I wasn't. And Lee came by 3 days filming. She did shelve the film. 2 weeks later, Albert returned. But it was between that time. I was having a cigarette on the front porch. I did not dare light a cigarette in the mansion. One, it was a tinderbox.
I was going to say.
No, I wouldn't. I almost
Besides
thought,
ethical, it's just probably dangerous.
it would have been terrible. Everything was tinder.
Right.
You know, I did once light the fireplace in the living room, trying to heat it up, and then I got scared because it got smoky, and I stuffed it down. I said, this may not be a good idea. And it didn't prevail in lighting a fire or striking a match in the mansion. I was having a cigarette, and it was summer, beautiful. I stand up, I'm looking at where Brooks had cut a path in the road for the Newtown grocer to deliver the groceries ordered the day before. That was easier for them to ask to get to the front door that way. That path is there. The car pulls up. A man gets out with a little uniform with a little tie. Well, let me be honest with you, that's another pain in the ass tourist looking at the mansion. I understand. I was a curious person still. But I wasn't in the mood for any guests to come up and ask for photographs. We had that happen. And I'm looking, and I wasn't aware of anything except that my cigarette was being put out in the lawn, the grass. And I look, and I just am standing there. I'm looking at this woman who had these very big glasses, and I guess it's called a kerchief.
Right, like a headscarf.
Yeah, that is. And very genteel walking towards the mansion. I looked at it. Holy mackerel, this is not happening. And it was. I knew who she was from the assassination
Right,
of Dallas.
right.
I was 10 years earlier. I was a kid. Well, 8 years.
Right.
And of course I knew who she was. And she walked up and did not look at me, but she did look at the mansion. I was frozen. I looked like a dirt bomb. I had sweatshirt, all kinds of stains, paint, and everything. And Mrs. Onassis, so I knew by sight, took off her glasses and glazed the front of the mansion. What you could see, and everything that was growing up on it. And looks, in disbelief I could tell because I watched everything she was doing and watched her face to make sure I wasn't, well, imagining this or out of my mind. I don't know. Can't believe I'm 3 feet from the first lady. And then the window opens on the second floor. Before that, Mrs. Onassis extended her arm in a very ladylike manner, instinctively stood there and she said, "You must be Jerry." She said, "Well, my aunt and my cousin have grown very fond of you. They trust you. How on earth you were invited into the mansion?" Question, I don't understand how. And I said, "Well, I'm here to help. Anything I can do to help. I like Mrs. Beale very much. And actually, I love her." And she then was looking at Edie had opened the window in the boys' room and was yelling outside the street, "Don't let her in here. Hey, Jerry, Mother's going to be very upset with you and may not allow you in anymore." I didn't say a word. I just stood there, freaked out. She's yelling at me not to let Mrs. Onassis any closer. But I remember standing like a little soldier, like that. And Edie came down, opened the door, screen door. They went onto the porch. You know what? I was really glad. And I remember saying, "Oh, I could take a rather try to understand what's going on." And then, of course, I realized it was told the relationship. Mrs. Onassis' father was Mrs. Beale's brother, Blackjack. His name was John Barnell Bouvier. He was given the nickname, not because he played cards, because he was a person who liked to eat cans and would sit out ready to go on the park and the terrace, and that's how I got a drink like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a crazy story.
Oh.
But it's a good one, and it's definitely part of the experience. Again, we're chatting with Jerry Torrey, who was co-author of a brand new book that's come out called The Marble Fawn of Grey Gardens, and you can check that out on Querelle Press. It's available now. When did you leave the Gardens?
About 1977. February the 5th. But Mrs. Beale's family held, well, she was determined to stay there. She did up to 3 days before her passing away. Then the funeral was arranged. I went, helped out with what I could, and we had mass to do. I was shocked. After she was laid to rest, I asked, Didi, what are you going to do now? And she said, I'm going back to the house. I didn't say anything. I didn't say, can I come back with you? Nothing. I knew she definitely needed her time. And I didn't want to at all be there. The things had changed for 3 days. So I didn't go there. Edie did sell the mansion 3 years later. I know the price, so $230,000. And I always said to my father on the phone and said, you know, we should buy the house. He said, how are you going to carry that place? I said, well, I'll get a job. Second, it didn't happen.
Right.
I couldn't have purchased this. Come on. Edie took off to Canada, speak French. Then to New York City, and then she from there went to Oklahoma, and then she moved about. She did enjoy her year. She also had a nightclub 3 nights, New Year's Eve weekend. I didn't stand I was in the bathtub. But I knew that she was there.
Wow.
She dated Ralph Hudson at the time.
Which is obviously much more platonic friendship than anything. Sure.
Yeah. I assume so. But I know I never did see her right or even speak with her again. I did see her, Miss Edie, one day. I was crossing town, it's raining, I have a customer, she's pretty cool, and I have the wipers on, and I sort of, I'll have to save it, so underneath the canopy of the Pierre Hotel, they have the heaters, and I'm lazy looking out the window, and I look and I see, guess who, Edie, and she got nothing on her hair, head, there's no hair, but she had an amulet like you'd see in a tomb, like a pharaoh. It was authentic, but for sure she always was, and it was a gold snake. And my customer looked out the window too and said, who's that? I said, that's Edie Beale. And Edie made eye contact. You know what? I was starstruck. I don't know why. We knew each other, but I didn't say a word. I was kind of like, look where I am driving, and see these little Edies there. I didn't see her or speak with her. That was it. And the next few months, I was crossing town on 57th Street, getting east, and there's a store called Hammerker and Schlemmer. I never could get that word. And under the canopy, Mrs. Onassis is standing. I'm in crosstown traffic, looking, and she makes eye contact with me, and gives me the gentlest smile. And I was actually intimidated. I was going to wave, but I didn't think it was proper. So I just stood there looking. We made eye contact for some time, 30, 60 seconds. And it was just a gentle acknowledgement. I could tell what she was thinking. And she was very grateful, and I was grateful too.
So in other words, if you want to see Jerry Torrey, stand under a canopy. That's the rule of this thing. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, it was Jerry, and of course, moved on.
Again, we could go on for hours about this. The book is great, and the stories are just incredible. I do want to ask you something completely off track. How in the world did you connect up with Wailing Flowers? How did that all come about?
At East Hampton, there was a gay bar called the Out of This World Inn. The owner was Trudy Hellers. She had a bar on 6th Avenue, 9th Street, and one in Paris. She always wore white, she was a tough cookie. Anyway, she saw me there and said to me, you would do well in my bar, and the guys would like you to be a bartender. I said, I don't know how to bartend, but I did learn. I went to school for it when I went back to Manhattan. I had a boyfriend named Robert. He had others of him there in the studio. I got the job at Trudy's. And in Trudy Hellers, it was also the Bonsoir, where Barbara Streisand had opened. She was there again, and I was hired as head bartender. I went to school for like a month, bartending school. I learned the trade. It was not so complicated. And I did pretty well. And, well, I'm chatterbox, if you haven't noticed, and I made friends on the bar. The bar made good money. At the bar one night, we were ready to do introducing a show. and it was named Link Carter and Company. We came here to Philly, you know. There's a theater called the Play and Players Theater. We ran the show there. I was backstage dresser to right after we met. He hired me to do that. Just backstage dresser. He was a female impersonator. I wasn't too proud. It was easy. He was difficult. Well, as time passed at that nightclub, he said, I have an opportunity for you. I rent the Pilgrim House in Petestown, Massachusetts, Provincetown. I'd never been there for a summer trip there and working. I'd get a room, but my job was to operate the hotel, and there was lots to do. Order things, clean things, paint things, and everything. And then at night, I'd run the spotlight in the material room. And it was there, very short, simple job. Run the spotlight on his show. The next show coming through was this fellow named Waylon Flowers with his puppets, who was Madam Jiffy Crazy Mary. And he was handsome. We had a short-term relationship, big deal. But he was on the stage and he said, focus on Madam only. And this scene will change the gel to amber or red, so I'm very simple. And I did. Once I lost track of Madam and he yelled at me. He became very successful that summer. Go to the boat slip bar and all the little knock-around places. There was great. And he lived through Madam. Madam was alive only for him, and he lived for that puppet who embodied him.
Well, it made him who he was.
He was a genius. And he was very creative. He would come up with things that he wouldn't even have thought about. But Madam was alive while he worked. It became a little bit too close to her in my view. You know, it was a different world for him. Me, I was just me. But I worked for Waylon. And then he said, I'm going to Los Angeles, California. He said, I got an opportunity to work and do a show called Little Boxes.
The Hollywood Square.
Yeah, that's the name. And he did, and he also had another show, I think, Madam's Place.
Yeah.
He asked me to go, I didn't want to go, and I didn't go. After a relationship with Waylon, I sort of like was finished. I didn't want to deal with it anymore.
It's one of the many stories we've learned a lot about Jerry by checking out this brand new book. The Marble Fawn of Grey Gardens. It's out now on Corel Press, written by Gary Torrey and Tony Mieta. I thank you so much for taking some time, Jerry. This is great to have you. We can sit here for hours and talk.
You're a nice person.
Well, thank you. I got it on tape now.
Oh.
Again, the book is called The Marble Fawn. Check it out, Corel Press. Again, Jerry, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
There is no escape.
This is 88.5 WXPN HD1 Philadelphia, 88.7